Have you ever fought with your siblings? Most of us have, sometimes over the smallest things. It's normal, and often those fights are just part of growing up. In fact, they say that bickering can even bring siblings closer together. But not everyone has that kind of bond. In today's case, we're talking about twin sisters whose rivalry went far beyond a simple argument. In fact, one of them wanted her sister dead, just for being too perfect. This is the chilling story of the Han sisters. Let's dive into a story filled with jealousy, bitterness, and an almost unimaginable betrayal between two sisters. In 2018, Gina Han, infamously known as the Evil Twin, was released on parole after serving 20 years in prison. She had been convicted in 1998 for plotting to murder her identical twin sister, Sunny Han. This case gripped the nation, and for good reason. The level of sibling rivalry was truly extreme. Gina's plan was terrifying. She wanted to end Sunny's life, all because of a deep resentment that had festered for years. The media in the 1990s portrayed Sunny as the angelic twin, the perfect sister, a victim of her jealous, neurotic counterpart. But there's always more beneath the surface, right? So let's rewind to see what led Gina to such a dark place. Gina and Sunny Han were born in South Korea in 1974, just 5 minutes apart. Sunny, the elder by those precious few minutes, seemed to always be in the spotlight, adored by their mother, Poo-jun Kim. Whether it was Sunny's charm or the fact that she was the older sister, it was clear their mother favored her. Gina, on the other hand, always felt like she was in the shadows, trying to win the love and attention that came so easily to her twin. But there was more to the story than just sibling rivalry. Their mother, Mrs. Kim, had her own struggles. She'd been abandoned by her husband, much like her father had abandoned her mother before. This cycle of instability seemed to follow Mrs. Kim throughout her life, leaving her emotionally volatile and unable to provide a stable home for her daughters. She worked as a bar hostess and spent long stretches at casinos, which led the girls to be shuffled in and out of group homes. When they were together, the tension and aggression at home only worsened. By the time the sisters were 12, their mother could no longer care for them, so they were sent to live with relatives in California. This move didn't solve their problems, though. It only added to the instability in their lives. The sisters grew up in survival mode, always feeling like they had to fend for themselves. It's no surprise that their relationship fractured over time. But no one could have predicted just how bad things would get. The Han sisters' story takes a darker turn after they moved in with their aunt and uncle in Campo, California. On the surface, things seemed promising. Both twins excelled academically, and by the time they graduated from Mountain Empire High School, they were named co-valedictorians. It seemed like they had the world at their feet, but beneath that success, things were far from perfect. Sunny's path took her to the University of Laverne on a full scholarship, a big win for her. But Gina's journey was different. Feeling unprepared for college, she decided to enlist in the Air Force. However, her time there was short-lived. She couldn't handle the rigid environment at Lackland Air Force Base and dropped out quickly. By 1996, Gina's life took a dark turn. She developed a gambling addiction, following in her mother's footsteps. Desperate to fund her habit, she became a blackjack dealer at Barona Resort and Casino in Lakeside, California. But things spiraled out of control when Gina gambled away her entire savings, $4,000, in a desperate attempt to recoup her losses. The financial strain soon led her down a path of deception and crime. Gina started forging checks and using stolen credit cards, racking up nearly $40,000 in fraudulent charges. The betrayal reached a personal low when her own uncle, the man who had raised her and Sonny, discovered she had stolen $10,000 from him. He reported her to the police, leading to her arrest. Gina was sentenced to probation, spending just 10 days in jail. She hit rock bottom, even attempting to overdose on sleeping pills and alcohol. But somehow she survived, clinging to what little hope she had left. After being released, Gina had nowhere to turn, except to Sonny. Despite their strained relationship, Sonny invited Gina to move into her apartment in a quiet neighborhood in northern Orange County. It seemed like a fresh start, a chance for the sisters to rebuild their bond. But it wasn't long before things fell apart. Living together brought out the worst in them. The twins fought constantly, mostly over small things like house chores. Sonny threw Gina out of the apartment multiple times. Their tension boiled over in May 1996 when the police were called to Sonny's apartment after a physical altercation. But instead of Gina getting arrested, it was Sonny who ended up in handcuffs. Gina was shocked. She fully expected to be the one going to jail again. As it turns out, Sonny had a secret of her own. A few years earlier, she had gone on a $1,300 shopping spree with a stolen credit card, believing her wealthy friend wouldn't notice. Despite appearances, Sonny Han's post-high school life was challenging. Struggling to fit in with affluent peers at college, she faced rumors of working as an exotic dancer to maintain her lifestyle. Her grades slipped, and she lost her scholarship. Although she later attended a community college, she couldn't regain her academic standing, eventually dropping out and claiming to work as a receptionist. With Sonny now locked up, Gina saw her chance. She stole her sister's wallet, ID, credit card, and keys to her BMW, temporarily stepping into Sonny's shoes. For a brief moment, Gina was living her sister's life, driving her car, withdrawing money from her account, and even making calls with Sonny's phone card. But it didn't take long for Gina's behavior to catch up with her. She was caught once again after stealing checks from her boyfriend, who reported her to the police. Sonny, freshly released from jail, pressed fraud charges against her sister. Gina was sentenced to more jail time, with a brief work furlough that allowed her to leave for 5 hours a day. The pattern of rivalry and jealousy had become a vicious cycle. Gina's obsession with outdoing her sister consumed her. Even after her release from prison, she found refuge in a shelter run by two kind sisters. But instead of using the opportunity to rebuild her life, Gina became consumed by one thought: revenge. Sonny's success was a constant reminder of everything Gina had lost, and in her mind, there was only one way to make things right: by destroying her twin. Archie Bryant, a local kid staying at the same shelter as Gina, formed a strong bond with his best friend, 15-year-old Jonathan Yoshi Sayarath. The two teens were inseparable, looking out for each other in tough times. It was at this shelter that they first crossed paths with Gina Han, a woman whose desperation would soon drag them into a crime that neither of them could have imagined. Gina, who had a way of manipulating people, found out during a casual conversation with Archie that he had access to a gun. Seeing an opportunity, she convinced him to help her acquire one. Archie didn't think much of it at the time. He arranged for his cousin to sell Gina a small Derringer pistol with 2 bullets for just $60. Archie even kept a little cut of the money for himself, and the deal seemed done. But for Gina, this was just the beginning. Not long after that, Archie and Yoshi were running late for school and asked Gina if she could give them a ride in her Mustang. And Gina had other plans. She casually mentioned a road trip and offered them $100 each to ditch school and come with her to Irvine. For two teens, without anyone keeping tabs on them, it sounded like an exciting adventure, so they jumped at the chance. As they cruised toward Irvine, Gina started sharing a story about being harassed by Asian gang members near her sister Sunny's apartment, where she had been staying. She warned Archie and Yoshi that these gang members might be hanging around, making it difficult for her to retrieve her belongings. The boys, trusting Gina, had no reason to doubt her. When they arrived, they made a stop at a local Ralph's grocery store, where Gina picked up a bizarre assortment of items: a potato, gloves, twine, and duct tape. Gina Han eventually revealed her true plan to the two teenagers, who were initially reluctant to get involved in something so dangerous. Gina pressured her teenage companions by asking if they could kill her sister. However, Gina, using manipulation and promises of money, managed to convince them to help her. It's shocking how easily they were drawn into such a plot, but Gina knew how to use her influence to get them on board. She needed their assistance to physically restrain her twin sister, Sunny, as part of her twisted plan. On November 16, 1996, the trio pulled up to Sunny's apartment, where she lived with two roommates. Gina instructed Archie to knock on the door, posing as a magazine salesman. One of Sunny's roommates answered, but refused to buy anything and shut the door in his face. Nervous and unsure of what to do, the boys hesitated. But Gina, in full control, told them to try again. The boys returned around 3 p.m., knocking once more. This time, Sunny's roommate peeked out again and noticed Yoshi leaning against a wall nearby, looking suspicious. She refused the magazines again, but before she could shut the door, Archie and Yoshi forced their way in. Archie pulled out the gun and aimed it at the woman's head, demanding that she get on the ground. Panicked and crying, she tried to scream, but they quickly silenced her by duct taping her mouth. At that moment, Sunny was in the bathroom, unaware of the full extent of the chaos happening just outside. She could hear her roommate's screams and, sensing something was wrong, grabbed her phone to call the police. But Archie was quick. He burst into the bathroom, restrained Sunny, and taped her mouth shut, threatening to shoot her if she made a sound. At this point, both women thought it was just a botched robbery. They told the boys to take whatever they wanted, desperate to survive. Meanwhile, Yoshi ran outside to let Gina know that the coast was clear, that she could come inside. But before Gina could make her move, the police had already arrived, alerted by Sunny's quick call for help. After the police arrested Archie, Gina and Yoshi made a quick getaway. They knew the heat was on, especially with Gina already being wanted and suspected of using Sunny's ID. To evade capture, they decided to swap cars, but their plan soon hit a roadblock. Less than an hour after Archie's arrest, she withdrew $5,000 from a Laguna Beach bank using Sunny's driver's license. Later that day, she traded in some items for gold and even filled out a credit application at a Nissan dealership in San Juan Capistrano, using her sister's ID once again to lease or purchase a flashy 300ZX sports car. But luck wasn't on her side. By that evening, the paperwork was incomplete, and her trail of deception was closing in on her. The car rental company, suspicious of Gina's resemblance to a wanted woman, tipped off the authorities, leading to their arrest. Despite her bold attempt to claim she was actually Sunny, Gina's lie unraveled quickly. When the trial came, it was lengthy, but the outcome was swift. On November 20th, 1997, after 10 hours of deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict. Gina Han was found guilty on all charges: conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts of burglary, 2 counts of false imprisonment, and possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. In 1998, Gina was sentenced to 26 years to life in prison and sent to the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. As for Archie, he refused to accept a plea deal on principle and ended up serving 14 years in state prison for first-degree burglary and 2 charges of false imprisonment. He was granted parole in 2011, 10 years earlier than expected, and is now living in San Diego, married, and working as a warehouse manager. Yoshi, on the other hand, took a different route. After signing a confession, he served just 4 years. His current whereabouts remain a mystery, but hopefully, he's learned some valuable life lessons. In 2018, Gina was granted parole, despite objections from the Orange County District Attorney's Office, which argued that Gina still posed a danger to society. The DA's office pointed out that she had not addressed her alleged mental health issues and continued to display manipulative tendencies, a key characteristic in her earlier crime. Nonetheless, Gina was released from the Central California Women's Facility on May 24, 2018, after spending nearly 20 years in prison. And what about Sunny? Even after the attempted murder, Sunny was in shock, unable to fully grasp that her twin had tried to take her life. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Sunny struggled to believe her sister's intentions were truly that dark. On the second day of Gina's initial court proceedings, Sunny was supposed to testify against her, but instead, she swallowed 35 sleeping pills in an attempt to take her own life. She was rushed to the hospital, but her downward spiral continued, as she later reportedly turned to prostitution. In 2017, Sunny supported Gina's parole, believing she had changed and deserved freedom to care for their ailing mother, who was battling diabetes and a gambling addiction. After Gina's parole in 2017, their mother, Kim, shifted her loyalty to Gina, who earned an engineering degree and found work in the San Francisco Bay Area. Kim no longer keeps in touch with Sunny, even claiming, "I think Sunny's dead." The twins' relationship remains troubled and unequal. When one succeeds, the other seems to fall apart. In 2020, Sunny was arrested near a donut shop on Beach Boulevard, showing her continued struggles. Though they are identical twins, the sisters reflect the complexity of human relationships, unable to understand or peacefully coexist with one another. The case of the Han sisters continues to captivate people, drawing a mix of horror and fascination. Once close, their bond was shattered by jealousy, deceit, and betrayal. While no one was physically harmed in the end, the emotional damage and broken trust left scars that can never fully heal. It makes you wonder, after everything, could Gina ever truly turn her life around? And could the Han sisters ever find a way to rebuild their relationship? That is all for today's story. What do you think? Is there hope for the Han sisters, or is their bond beyond repair? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in our next episode.